Welcome, everyone, to episode 50 of the Rust Belt Rundown. I'm your host, Paul O'Connor. And on this episode, this is a very special episode, not only because it is episode 50, but we are joined by the founder of Jackie O's, Art Oestrike. Thank you for welcoming us to Jackie O's in Columbus, man. This is fantastic.
Dude, my pleasure, Paul. It's good to have you here.
And this is appropriate. That sound, if you're listening, that sound is appropriate. If you're watching, we get our first sip. This is my favorite. It's the classic Raz Wheat. What are you drinking?
So I guess we'll talk about it later, but right now my favorite product that we're putting out is called Deck the Hills.
Okay.
It's our spin on a holiday ale. We're not really into nutmeg and spices and things like that. So we made an English mild ale and a pretty simple, easy drinking product. And I've been easily drinking them.
That's a good sign. If you develop it to be easy and it's easy, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump in, man. This is fantastic. We're in the new space in Columbus. We're actually going to start not about Jackie O's. I think I was actually shocked doing research. I don't think the vast majority of OU alums know that you actually owned Bagel Street Deli as well. So talk to us about that and give us the timeline. What came first? So let's start there.
Cool. So we're going to talk about this a little later, but I taught English in South Korea for almost 3 years, just before 9/11. In August of 2001, I moved to Gwangju, South Korea, in the southwestern portion of South Korea. And about a year and a half into being there, Bagel Street Deli went up for sale. I had worked there as an undergrad, and a number of my friends did as well. Kind of a part of our social existence revolved around Bagel Street.
Yep.
And Lenny Meyer and I, he's my best friend and now neighbor, actually. We share a driveway.
Love it.
And Lenny was like, hey, you want to buy Bagel Street? And I was kind of on the fence.
Just the casualness of it. Just
correct.
Sure.
I was like, well, I was kind of heartbroken at the moment. And so I kind of made a decision, but then I didn't. And I said, well, not yet. I can't do it right now. But 6 months later, I called him and I had moved to Seoul and was teaching English there. And I said, hey, I'm going to be home in 6 months. Is it still for sale? And the answer was yes. And we kind of pulled the trigger. My mom drove down more money than I ever spent on anything in my life at that time. And kind of signed up the deal and we purchased it in October of 2003. And then I moved back to the States in early March of 2004. So I moved back in.
So you bought, you bought it and you weren't even there yet.
That's
Not
right.
that you need, you know how it's going to operate.
I knew what was going on. I knew how it operates. I knew, Scott Bishop, I love you if you're listening, but we knew what it needed to move forward and to be a successful enterprise. It needed some love, and Scott was into, they were raising a family, and it was time for them to move on.
Yeah, priorities changed.
Priorities changed. That's exactly right. So we purchased it, and then, so when I came home in March, I hadn't run Bagel Street before, obviously, but I jumped in with both feet and worked full time there until grad school started in the fall of 2004. So studied linguistics and here we are. In Bagel Street, we're actually doing, for all you bagelers out there, former bagelers, we're doing a 30-year anniversary.
Wow.
Because Bagel Street was founded in 93. So on June 30th, I believe that's a Saturday, that weekend, there's a whole bunch of events revolving around Bagel Street's anniversary. So if you worked there in the past and want to show up, find us, 740-593-3838. But yeah, hit it up and we're out there. Or find us on all the social media outlets.
So Bagel Street's had 2 owners?
Bagel Street is on its 3rd owner, Darrigan Corp., followed by Scott Bishop and Courtney Bishop, and then General Zod Inc.
Got it. Okay, so
Neil
got
before
it.
Zod.
All right, so let's jump into Jackie O's.
Yep.
This the research that went into this was awesome for me because it was, for a million reasons. One, it was a trip down memory lane, and 2, I just learned a ton about you, about the origin story, and that's where I want to start. Tell us about the original name, why you wanted to buy it, and then, of course, dedicating it to your mother.
Sure. So we're going to just kind of continue that timeline. In 2004, started grad school and was running Bagel Street. And, grad school is pretty much a full-time gig, and I did TA-ship, so I was teaching a class and running Bagel Street. But, we had a number of wonderful staff at that point in time. So, still today. We have a great staff at Bagel Street Deli.
There you go. That's it.
And we always have. So in 2004, I was doing that, running through life, doing that kind of thing, living back in Athens, excited to be there. I'd been gone for 3 years. And
it's the best.
It is the best. And then in 2005, I always wanted to buy a bar. Okay, my dad.
Who doesn't?
Right.
I want to buy a bar.
Right. My parents had a house that was really conducive to throwing parties. My brother was an avid soccer player, played club soccer forever, as did I.
Was it conducive because they were out of town a lot?
Yeah. So there was a period of time, my senior year in high school, when Brian had games in far west side of Cleveland on a Friday night. Games were either 7, 8, 9, or 10.
You knew you had 6 hours.
My brother being who he is, I knew I had 6 hours every Friday night my senior year.
I love
Incredible.
it.
So I got really good at understanding that and enjoyed doing that.
Yep.
So obviously, boom, boom, boom. Fast forward to 2005, and there's a brewery for sale. There's a bar for sale with a brewery in it.
Yep.
And my great friend Brad, told me to buy it. He's like, "You should buy this. I'll make the beer. You should buy it. I'll make the beer." And here we are. All of a sudden, December 12th, 2005. That means we're turning 18 this year. Weird.
That's wild.
We got the keys. Did a massive cleanup. Opened late that year. Massive cleanup. But we bought O'Hooley's, which is a
That's a very good Athens trivia question.
Yeah.
O'Hooley's. What was the original name?
I can tell you lots of different bar names.
Yeah, and like what Court Street has changed. Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Not just from me, but just from people telling me all these funny stories.
In the 80s, early,
yes,
yeah, of course.
Right. So then we bought it from Jimmy Prouty. And unfortunately, Mom was down, my family was down to help clean up the bar in, again, late 2005. Mom got diagnosed with lung cancer in early 2006. It was a really stage 4, not much chance there. My siblings, I love them. My siblings were able to be home and help my father throughout that whole process. They were up in Cleveland, east side of Cleveland. And I went up as much as I could in that time, but it was a pretty hard struggle.
Yeah, of course.
And cancer took her June 14th of that year. But I told her on Mother's Day in 2006, I was like, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to name this thing Jackie O's Pub and Brewery." She's like, "A bar?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Fucking shit,
I've never seen that quote and
it's
laughing.
going to be a lot more than a bar, Mom."
Yeah.
That story doesn't get old because it's true and it's real. And it's like, yeah, that's what happened. My mother moved to the States from England in 1967. So, we don't often think of aliens being from, England, but, having a different sense of perspective and worldly perspective, having grown up in England. So that really made an impact on me, which is why, I ended up in different countries teaching English and doing things like that because the world wasn't in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's beyond Ohio. So
that's a good segue. I want to talk about life after Athens. Life after Athens is tough. That I will never forget. I was dating my girlfriend then, my wife now. She lived in Columbus. So when I graduated, I drove up to Columbus, stayed with her for a couple of days, and then drove back home to Connecticut. But that drive will forever be burned into my brain of getting on the highway, looking back, and knowing that this is it. You know what I mean? I'm coming back as an alum, which is just a terrifying word when you're a senior and you graduate. So I'll never forget that. But life after Athens is totally different. No one really knows what's going to happen after or where they're going or what they're doing. But your journey took a whole left turn. And you mentioned it a little bit about, your mom being from England, bringing a different perspective. Tell us why you wanted to go teach English in another country. Did you have a choice of where you could go? Why did you choose South Korea? Tell us about that whole journey, that whole path.
Sure. So Lenny, the guy I referenced, my best friend in my undergrad years, Cincinnati boy, he and I both decided we wanted to go teach English. Both applied to a program to go to Japan.
It's so nice that you have one extra. That's like,
right.
that gets you to do it.
Right.
It's like, all right, let's do this together.
Right. Well, it just the way it worked out, Lenny ended up getting another position and didn't go to Japan.
I spoke
and
too soon.
I didn't get the position. Okay. So very strange happenstance. But at that point in time, you could get a job teaching English in a lot of different places in Asia. And, I weighed my options, and South Korea, the money made sense and was able to save more money there. And I was going to go to Japan or Korea because in 2002, the World Cup was there. Okay, avid soccer fan, huge, awesome.
Who are your
right?
teams?
U.S. and England, okay,
Sure.
for those reasons I discussed.
Sure, makes sense.
And what's funny? I have bought tickets to follow Argentina in 2 different World Cups and had like 4 or 5 tickets to follow them. That's how they used to run their ticket game. And so Argentina.
I was going to say good timing. Yeah, it was good timing. Good timing. And I feel like you have, are you obligated to say the crew, or are you not obligated to say
I am
the
a
crew?
huge, for MLS, it's the crew.
Yeah, they've done an unbelievable job with that stadium.
I'm
and
so
just
excited about being here more often and being able to support the crew
Yep.
and do that through and through. So that's pretty flippin' sweet.
Yeah.
England, Korea. Oh, so then, Korea came calling. And I got a job teaching at an institute. I was teaching
What age?
3 through 7-year-old children that first 8 months, 10 months. And then I got a job at a high school girls' high school, but I saw each student once a week. So I was, 16 or 18 classes or something like that. And I saw each class, though, once a week. So it's like not that impactful on their English
that's hard.
growth. It was hard because it was all different levels and 40 students or so in each room.
Yep.
And so, and you see them once a week. So contact time is like 40 times in a year,
Yeah.
And, but there was some after school things where the kids who were interested got more study. So I got to know several of them, and like we're friends on Instagram and all that stuff, today.
Nice.
But, and then the last year,
How long were you there total?
2 years and 8 months, something like that, from getting there to coming home.
Got it.
And taught at an elementary school, 5th graders, the last year, and it was up in Seoul, so much different. I was like in the sticks that first year and a half, a year and whatever. And so then it would be 36 kids in the class, and there's one big room. 18 were with their Korean teacher, 18 were with me, and we swapped all day.
Got it.
Right? And so those kids spoke English. Those kids were very good. And their whole school life was that situation. Up through 6th grade at Younghoon, they got to do those different things, which was kind of wild. And then, came home in 2004.
Can you tell us about, it's been 20 years, basically.
Yeah.
You could probably answer this a million different ways, but what's the biggest misconception about South Korea to the everyday American?
I bet it was so different over there. It's like, well, it's way more similar than it is different. Everybody eats, everybody goes to work or school, everybody poops, everybody has a life outside of school and work and whatever. And that's what we do. It's like more similar than not.
Of course.
Okay, sure. There's differences, of course. But again, it's just going through life with in a different culture.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And your mother gets diagnosed. They decide, and I want to hear about this whole story, but they decide to do, I would say, the hardest / craziest / most insane thing a human being can do on planet Earth, and that's climb Mount Everest. We need to hear, and I want to hear about longevity as well, why they did it, kind of how hold that story, but like, did they come back and were they had to be completely changed human beings? What was that like? How it's hard to probably even describe.
Well, it's crazy because, all right, I had probably said within a couple of weeks of me being like, hey, Mom, I'm going to call this place Jackie O's Pub and Brewery. Brian comes into the kitchen. He's like, hey, Mom just gave me approval to climb Mount Everest. And I'm like, what? What the fuck? No. Like, what?
And was this originally, hey, we're all doing this, or I'm doing it? Or did people have to get recruited? Like, how does this happen?
Brian is an endurance athlete. Okay.
So he's wired.
Yeah. He just ran a
challenge.
100-mile race in Hawaii like 4 days ago. He finished in 8th place. Okay. 27 hours running. Okay. This is him. Okay. But this was the goal. Like, so we're trying to bring about awareness for lung cancer research, and Longevity was an organization based in Chicago that does lung cancer research. Okay. So Brian says, I'm going to do this. Okay? Meanwhile, we owned a brewery. Okay. And that whole process. So we're going to make a beer to help support that.
Love it.
When you say Choma Lungma, okay, that means Mount Everest if you're speaking Tibetan and or Mandarin. Okay, the languages are all pretty similar. They're linguistically tied together in the family tree of language.
Got it.
And Ma means mother across the world's languages. Chomo Lungma means goddess mother of the earth, or Sagamartha if you're speaking Tibetan.
Got it.
Okay, so following that line of thinking, you've got lung in the word. Okay, so you play it back to some Americans and you're like, oh, okay, well, these things happen. And I'm going to climb Everest, says Brian. I'm going to do this without oxygen support. I'm going to try my best to get up there. It's like, what? And so my sister didn't summit and didn't necessarily shoot to summit, because if she would have shot for it, she would have done it, knowing her, because she's also an endurance athlete. She runs 30 milers. She was Brian's aide in this race that just happened, where she ran 20 miles. She ran the last loop with them. And like, she is also a high altitude endurance athlete.
The next time I go to complain at like Orange Theory, I'm really going to rethink my...
They're like, you can do it. You can do it. I'm like,
I can't even run for a half hour on a treadmill.
Yeah. So Brian's like, I'm gonna do this, right? And so we're like, cool. And
your mom gave him the blessing. Like,
mom gave him the blessing. Okay, honey, be careful. And I'm like, oh. I've since said, hey, I like having a brother. I'd like you to be careful up there. Yeah. People die on these mountains all the time.
This is not something that's like, oh, we'll do it and we'll come back.
Right.
Be a day.
I mean, they put a flag over someone that they had just played Yahtzee with the day before on the trail, because you leave them there for your own safety. Okay, it's like it's pretty crazy what happens. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. So
and
the whole thing. Yeah. Everything. So Brian and Justin is a family friend of ours. He climbed it with Brian, and Katie ran base camp. She ran, and she also was like,
explain what that means.
Okay, so base camp is at 17,000 feet, and then there's advanced base camp. There's camp 2, camp 1, camp 2, camp 3 as you go up. So you kind of climb a ladder to train your lungs. Okay, and then you come back down. You keep climbing the ladder, and you go higher every time. Okay, and then work your way back down, and your body kind of recuperates at 17,000 feet. Then you watch the weather and you shoot for it, and you come back down. Okay, if there's weather,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like you just kind of keep going. And
I didn't
get
know
your
the
body
come back
ready.
down part.
Yep. Like you have to come, because your body, you're dying.
Can't do it.
You're like, it's not good. If you're on oxygen, you're kind of doing okay, but you're still like laboring to get up there. And they were going the economic route and trying not to have Sherpa support beyond base camp. So then Katie's like bouncing up and cleaning up and bringing the tents down and bringing on the stuff and helping with all the stuff. And yeah, May 23rd, the weather opens in the right way, boom, 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 and they shoot the moon. And they did use oxygen that last 1,000 feet going up. Okay. One of them was showing signs of cerebral edema. I believe that's what it is. And so it's like, hey, let's throw some oxygen on. Let's get to the top of this thing, do what we're supposed to do, and get our butts down.
And then when you do, it almost seems like when you get up there, like, what do you do when you get up there? You take a picture, you celebrate, you hug, what do you do?
Brian made a video. Okay. He had a Frisbee in his hand.
Wow.
It was a Bagel Street Deli Frisbee.
Let's go.
And he gave a little tribute to what was going on.
Yep.
And he was going to throw that Frisbee down. He's like, hey, kid, I'm going to try to throw it down to Katie down there at Advanced Base Camp. I have the video somewhere.
I mean, that's
it's on a
cool, though. That's like a
megapixel.
unique way to, like, you got to do something, right? I mean, you just did the most
Yep.
I don't know. I should have Googled it before how many people have actually climbed Mount Everest, but it has to be
enough every year.
hundreds.
I think there might be 1,000, a couple thousand, but yeah. But a lot of
You're
people,
in the elite of the elite.
a lot of people get shepherded up. I'll put it that way. Okay. There's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I'd prefer not to talk about that necessarily,
Sure,
Paul, but like you can spend a lot of money and get up that mountain.
And get up there.
Okay. Let's put it that way. So Brian put a picture of he and mom under the temple, the box. I don't know the right word.
Yeah.
But he left a picture up there and there's prayer flags all up there. And,
that's awesome.
Pretty cool thing, just that moment of being up there. And it's on all of our computers somewhere. He did it. Yeah. They did it. It's like pretty incredible. And my dad was at base camp as well. So
amazing.
He and my Uncle John.
What is the going average temperature at base camp?
I don't know.
It's gotta be, this can't be a comfortable environment.
It's pretty chilly, but there's yak butter and there's all sorts of snacks and stuff. They play a lot of Yahtzee, read a lot of books.
Yeah.
You're like recuperating and resting when you're at base camp, right? I would like to think that I would have made the best igloo anybody's seen up there.
I believe it.
That's where my brain resides. Facilities.
Yeah. Operations,
operations and
logistics.
facilities. Right.
Yeah. We would have gotten beer there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever
we
you wanted.
Had beer there. So there was a blog that was running, and I was helping publish that blog.
Got it.
Because I was here. Kemal at blogspot.com, I think it was what it is. Katie Irene. Anyways. I could shoot you the link.
I want to check it out.
Then it kind of chronicled that whole process from being in Ohio and doing the fundraisers and all those things and the beer. So there's a lot of information out there about that climb. And then I was kind of updating from home what was going on. It's funny, there's weird stuff out there, and I don't really believe this kind of stuff, but I was having altitude sickness from Athens when Brian was climbing. I knew when his ass started going down from that peak.
I think that stuff's real.
So weird.
I think that stuff's real. You're just like sitting all of a sudden.
I knew. I was like, wait a second.
Something happened.
Yeah. Something just happened.
And then a couple hours later, you get the
I'm like,
news
we're good.
or whatever it is.
Yep. Ding. What's up? Phone calls at 3 a.m, stuff like that, And so, pretty crazy what was going on. But we made Chomolungma then. Okay, so mom was from Newcastle, England. She lived in Newcastle for a while. There was Newcastles in my fridge growing up forever. On Sundays, she'd crack one. I was the oldest of 3. So, she'd pour me a little bit of beer at 16 or whatever. And I think showed me a different flavor of beer.
Yep.
That in high school, I'd be like, wait, what is this?
Yeah, what is this? I just want something light.
Yeah, I would take one every Friday night or whatever. And she kept buying them, which is very English of her. And, so that kind of started. So, of course, when we were going to name Chomolungma, we had a tap handle design that was like in the shape of a peak.
Love it.
And then we're like, hey, he's like, we're going to make an IPA for you. He's like, no, let's do a brown ale. So anyway, the original tap handle for Chomolungma turned into Mystic way back when. And, and it had the mountain, and the Chomo had a different tap handle to it than those original ones way back when. And, Chomolungma was born at that point. And so, it's got that wonderful story to go beside it and with it. And it's all like true, beautiful, cool, family, worldly, all that stuff in one fell swoop. So,
So let's jump back into Jackie O's. We were talking about this before we started recording. I graduated in 2011, which is just sad to say out loud, but there was and there still is, but there was an allure around Jackie O's for a variety of reasons. One, it wasn't serving Coors Light, but actually maybe you can get it there now. I don't know, but it wasn't your Coors Light, Bud Light, Miller Light. 2, you couldn't get in. So from 07 to 11, I didn't go into Jackie O's until I was a senior. You could not get in. There was no fake ID. My fake ID was horrendous anyway, but there wasn't going in. So there was this always like, oh no, like locals are there, real humans with jobs and families go to this place, and college students that are of age. But there was this essence around it, and there still is. I wonder, from your perspective, did you feel that? Was that known? How quickly did that happen? And then I want to get into Columbus, but what started that? And what is that feeling?
All right. So when you're in Athens, right? And when you're 18, 19, 20, you're going to those certain bars. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. The ones that'll let you in, and then you know
right.
where you can go.
And then when you're 21, you don't go back to those bars.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's nice.
And we all know that. I had worked at Tony's as an undergrad, and I understood what I was getting into. And it's like, no, as soon as we bought an underage bar, O'Hooley's was an underage bar.
Yep.
A number of liquor license violations later is why we ended up getting to buy it in the first place. It's like, no,
we're not doing that.
Switch that game. Forget about it. That's over. And so we were very vigilant. I remember times that there'd be kids on the patio, and I'd be like, they didn't order one drink, and I would bust tables all the time. I love my favorite position. I can't wait to bar back at this place. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be
Anyways,
awesome. You're going to be busy.
I'm going to be busy, and I'm going to get in shape again. Who knows? But I would walk the perimeter once in a while and check. It was like multiple times I'd get a 24 pack of Busch Light that they had stashed outside the patio, and we're just pulling them in. And I'd walk outside, put it in the walk-in cooler.
Smart.
And I'd walk back there and be like, hey guys, cheers. Thanks for the 24 pack. Now get the fuck out of here. Things like that. We were trying to be very vigilant at that door because that's our liquor license. To this day, knock on wood, we've yet to get a liquor license violation.
Nice.
That's
okay.
other
So
facility,
I wasn't wrong. That was real.
Very vigilant.
That was real.
Yep. And you couldn't find Jackie O's beer outside of those walls until 2013.
Yeah, exactly.
Deep into 2013
that led to
anyway,
it as well.
That helped all that stuff. And
were you even? Correct me if I'm wrong. Were you even canning? What? I don't know what that.
No.
No, you just had to drink it there.
You had to drink it there. We sold some bottles, but it was 0.2% of production.
Yeah, of course.
Fancy, high end, esoteric, sour, and heavy barrel aged stouts went into bottles. A couple of the occasional, I think Matriarch went in early on, but a couple of, non-barrel aged barley wines and things like that, or double IPAs, whatever they were classified differently then. But Matriarch went into some bombers as well.
Got it.
And but that was about it through 2013 when the production site came online.
Got it. So let's talk Columbus.
Yeah.
We're sitting here in the tap room / patio / soon to be best spot in Columbus. Mm-hmm. When you opened, you still you can just walk in and buy beer, but talk to us about why Columbus, and more importantly, why expansion?
Okay. So Jackie O's was built on O'Hooley's. Okay. We were only in that room.
Yep.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9. In 2009, we got Skipper's, which is now called Jackie O's Public House.
Yeah.
In 2009. So when you were there.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
So we got that room. Shout out to Papadosio. We opened that room in September of 2009. And then we were only a venue till December when we moved the kitchen over. January of 2010, you would have been going to the public house more than you would be going to the small side.
Yep.
Everybody wanted our product. 2011, 12, 13, 2010, even.
Yep.
Where homecoming weekend, hey, what's your product? Just wherever, Springfield, Cincinnati, Columbus.
Yep.
Yeah,
how can
Toledo,
we buy this?
How can we get it? It's like, you're here now, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we went and took a class on how to start a brewery. Brad and I were the only two in the room who worked out or owned a brewery out of 40 people at Siebel Institute in Chicago. And we started looking for a building.
Okay.
Athens is not a hotbed of industrial activity.
Yep.
And so it took us some time to find a building. But we did in late 11.
Got it.
Found a building, kind of announced it the next day.
Yep. That's over by the intramural fields.
Yep, over by the intramural fields, between Stimson and the intramural fields. On the new road called 1804 Way.
Nice. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. Come visit.
There we go.
And we started putting beer into cans. Okay, cans and bottles.
Yep.
More and more into production.
Yeah.
And so instead of 99% of our beer being sold in our own walls, 99% of the beer went out to the state of Ohio.
And so from the manufacturing point of view, you could only do so much with what you had in the original space, correct?
That's correct.
Which is why you needed just more.
We capped out at about 800 barrels of beer at the brew pub. We capped out about 800 barrels of beer at the brew pub, and that was in 2012.
Got it.
We couldn't make enough product, and we were just making things faster than we probably should have, and it just went that direction. And then to put it into perspective, in 2013, we started brewing in February of 13. We did 3,000 barrels in 13.
Okay.
And then 6,000, 8,000, 8,000, 13, 11, 13, 15,000 down about 13 is where we're at today.
Okay.
And because we can produce.
Yep.
Okay. So suddenly 98% of the product that we make is out and going into the state of Ohio.
Yep.
A few 5-6% goes out of Ohio. Excuse me.
Yeah, to us when we live in, New York and Connecticut and Atlanta, all the places I've lived. Yeah.
You can kind of find it, but just in small doses. It's hard to find it. So that's been the gist of it. Now, keep in mind, all of that stuff was built on O'Hooley's and the public house, and doing that, right, where you can curate, create, and run your own vibe and your own feel and your own thing, and that mystique behind the brand. That's something that you get on site.
Yep.
Okay. We were local to Columbus in 2013, 14, 15, 16. Well, since then, 2017 and beyond, you're not really local anymore. When we went from 23 breweries in the state of Ohio to 400. Okay.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that, but you're not really local anymore, right? And so Columbus has been a home market forever, and then it wasn't, and it hasn't been. So we've been looking at ideas and concepts about coming here for years, and the right deal didn't show up, the right thing didn't show up, it just didn't feel right. Something wasn't
Waiting
right.
for the right space.
Waiting for the right
which
space.
You found.
We found one. And so Elevator Brewing Company was here, and
God, I didn't even know
they
that.
had Elevator had two different facilities, one a production site next door, and then one is more like a brew pub kind of feel.
Got it.
That brew pub is still there, different owners, about 2 blocks behind me.
Okay.
And Dick Stevens, ran this place. He bought it with his kid, for his kid, a number of years ago, and it's been in homage to Ryan. So Ryan was Dick's son. He passed away a number of years ago, and so Dick and I would always kind of talk about Jackie and Ryan in that same regards.
Yeah.
And so every time I talk to Dick, and we met 10 years ago when we were both on the founding board members of the Ohio Craft Brewers Association, and he'd be like, Art, you should buy this place. You should buy this place. I'd be like, you need a better freaking tap room, Dick. Okay, come on. And he'd be like, you should buy it and do it. And I was like, well, in the end, that's what happened. Yeah. So 2.5 years ago in 2020, in the middle of COVID, we were able to pull the trigger.
Probably a good time to buy.
Because it's a decent time to buy.
Yep.
And got the building and started working on this pretty colossal project.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, we're going to have seats for 500 or so people, room for lots more than that, in honesty. It's pretty exciting. I mean, there's like 7 different spaces within the space, and here we go. And we want to be local to Columbus. Columbus has always been our home market. It's an hour and 2 minutes for me to get here door to door.
Yep.
Right. With how the highways have made it a lot closer.
Yeah, you don't have to go through Nelsonville anymore.
Yeah, no Nelsonville, no Lancaster. Like we're hitting those bypasses and going.
Yep.
And man, it's like, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm cautiously optimistic and very excited and a little nervous, and actually very nervous about what this is going to be. But it's coming, and it's such a unique space.
So you mentioned it before that Jackie O's has always felt like, like Gen Z would say, if you know, that type of vibe, that type of feel.
Yep.
So it will always have that in Athens. How do you build that here in Columbus?
So in order to build that vibe in Columbus, I think we need to lean into alum. Okay. We lean into Bobcats. There are more Ohio University alumni living in greater Columbus than there are humans in Athens County. comma, of drinking age. Okay. Like it's a pretty big statement.
Yeah, that's a stat.
And if you look at Athens, what gets exported from Athens? Well, college degrees and kids with degrees. And honestly, we're a pretty close second, according to most newspapers and things out there, that our product is out there and it's associated with your time in Athens and that wonderful time that, seems scary when you were leaving and all those things, right? But it's a wonderful time. It was like with fond memories and all that stuff. And we're a part of that, so leaning into that. And then, if you got 10 friends and 2 of them are Bobcats, they're going to show up here eventually
100%.
in the next couple in 2023. And, you curate that experience and you show that experience and you lean into the stuff and push forward. Create a wonderful scene and a wonderful experience. Yeah,
I love it. I can't wait for it to get warmer. Everybody see the patio. It's going to be ridiculous. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. This is a Northeast Ohio mainly focused podcast. We talk to people in economic development, workforce development, manufacturing. I think a sneaky aspect that people probably don't think of because they see you or they think of Jackie O's, it's like, yeah, he runs a bar. It's like, yeah, okay, he does run a bar, but he's also a manufacturer, like by default, by design, by definition. Can you talk about that process? You went to Chicago, you learned about the brewery, you open up, like, what did you learn throughout that process? How difficult is manufacturing?
Well, over the course of time, I've worn every hat in the company. Okay, I've done all the different things. And the fact that you said
you're excited to be bar back, like that may show you how difficult manufacturing is if you want to be bar back.
That's right. Like there are so many different facets to what we're doing today. And starting small and growing, and you learn the process, you learn what you're doing. I've never been that involved with brewing, but I know everything about it. Okay. Mm-hmm. I couldn't go step into the brew stand today. I can't really step into many positions today in the plant, but I could be helpful to a lot of people in a lot of ways because I get what they're doing. I know what they're doing. I could be much more useful to the company in other ways. And so that's what I tend to do. Now, I've been fixated, probably to a fault, on increasing retail beer sales. Okay.
Got it.
I want to sell this to you directly. Again, O'Hooley's
the DTC.
built this company. Okay. Yep. DTC is right. Direct to consumer. And you want to hit that. And that's what built this thing. And that's where I'm leaning into. That's why I've thrown and got the biggest loan I've ever known, and hopefully I will ever know, to do this facility.
Yep.
That you want to lean into direct to consumer. You can tell your brand, but tell your story than anybody else can anywhere. Like you can tell your story to the customer right here. That is a huge deal.
Yep.
So we're leaning into all those things from this location down here. And I think it's only going to strengthen what we do in Athens and here and just keep growing on that situation. Manufacturing is not easy. It is not easy. And then when you're manufacturing, you're like working with a distribution partner and you're moving all these things around to try to get there. But the margins are a little bit different when you're DTC.
Yep.
I'll put it that way.
Yep, for sure. Okay, let's talk OU. How have you been able to, if you have over the years, to leverage the relationship between, a standing business in Athens and OU? Could be with maybe the business school or hiring students or maybe there isn't that like formal relationship and it's more informal. But have you been able to do that over the years at all?
Up until June of 2021, I worked at Ohio University as a faculty member in the linguistics department. So I taught a lot of different international students typically how to make their way in the business school, because the business school has a lot of different collaborative approaches to learning and projects that are done collaboratively. And so I've been involved in a lot of different ways. Now, I've done projects with just about every school and thing on campus. I teach a class The Art of Craft Brewing, a case study into the Athens brewing scene.
I mean, perfect.
Yep, that's actually semester just started. I got a class on Friday, very field trip centric, and there's an age restriction on the course.
Nice.
And that
seniors
sort of thing,
only, and let's go get some beer.
That's right. Working is, say yes to everybody. It's your backyard. It's who's with you and how that goes, and you want to support who supports you.
Yep.
Ohio University is a part of that. All local organizations, farmers, nonprofits that are in the area that, we want to work with them, and we want to, raise the bar at all levels. And, it's been a little difficult these past couple of years, but I think that, 2023 is going to shine a light on everything.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's talk about the last 10 or 12 years or so, maybe even longer, in terms of the explosion of breweries in not only Ohio, but across the entire country. It felt, even as just someone not even remotely close to the industry, that it was getting somewhat absurd, no matter where you lived in this country, how many breweries were opening up. Really, to me, now you correct me, but 13, 14, 15, 16, it just felt insane. It was almost like, I lived in Atlanta for a little bit, we lived in New York for a little bit, and they were everywhere. And they didn't have a brand. No one really knew who they were, but they were there. So, let's just start with the very easy one. Have we reached peak breweries?
I think in 2020, we were heading towards a lot of closures. Okay. But in some weird way, I'm going to say COVID saved the industry.
Interesting.
Okay.
Because of the
money
loans,
money was passed out, PPP and or EIDL loans and things like that. There was money available to help you stay afloat. There's also a correlation between number of bars and number of breweries. Okay. The number of bars has gone down since 15, 16. Well, the number of breweries has gone up. So you still have an equal number of drinking holes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this with any factual data behind it, but you're going to find a correlation there. That's going to make sense.
And do you think that was a result of people's reaction to breweries opening up, or just?
I think that people are still going out to have beverages, and they'd rather go to a place that's doing more than serving somebody else's. Okay,
got it.
They want to go to a place where somebody.
Experience.
There's people
the
there
beer
working.
Is right there.
That motherfucker over there made this beer. Like that sort of thing.
That
comment is that goes a long way. That,
it does.
And then there's also the massive structures that we've all built. At this point, and we've it's a sexy thing. The breweries and today distilleries and that it's grown on that level, but the number of bars is dropping and the number of those other facilities is on the rise. Now, I do not think it's sustainable. I do believe that shakeouts are going to continue to happen.
Revert back to the mean a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. 1,300 breweries existed nationwide when we bought O'Hooley's in 2005. There's I think it's pushing 10,000, 9,000 today. It's a lot. It's a lot of breweries. Ohio went from 23 to 400. Okay. Now, there are 4 brewery licenses under my watch. Okay. So, there's that too. I was one of 23, now we're 4 of 100. Okay. So,
got it.
And one of them you don't know about. I'm not going to talk about it yet. So,
next episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. 100. Number 100.
Done.
See that. But that's kind of where it's at. And I don't know. You have to innovate. You have to be different. You got to grow. You got to change your tune. You can't rest on your laurels. You've got to continue to grow, or not grow, or be smart with what you're up to.
Yeah. Adapt or die, figure it out, that type of. So, okay, this is your free chance to, I guess, help somebody else out. But if you can't drink here, what brewery are you drinking in Ohio?
I guess it depends where I'm at. If I'm here, I'm ended up at Seven Sun or at Wolf's Ridge.
Got it.
I'm right down, they're both right next door on 4th Street as well. And then if I'm in Athens, I'm going to Little Fish. I got to tell you, man, it's been great. 7 years or so ago, I think, Sean and Jimmy opened Little Fish. And it's just been nice to have another brewery in town. Oh, yeah, we need some 2-row. And you go, yo,
I need it.
It's not like calling Eric up here, which I did a number of times. Thank you, Eric, to go grab something from him because, I need a pallet of Citra. Please help, and it's like, we didn't have that ability. And, we all help each other. It's still a thing, but Little Fish, nothing against Devil's Kettle, Cameron. But, having breweries in Athens is awesome. Because we're such an isolated bubble for so long.
Yeah, you were on your own for the vast majority.
Long time, over 10 years.
Man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
This has been fantastic. We're going to end with some rapid fire, easy questions.
Bring it.
First one, favorite Jackie O's beer?
Chomalungma, maybe Who Cooks.
Okay. If you're not drinking Jackie O's, what are you drinking?
Right now, Old Fashions.
That's a good answer. Tough mornings, but good answer.
Yeah, tough mornings.
If you could only eat at one place in Athens the rest of your life, where are you eating?
Chopsticks.
Okay. One word to describe your new Columbus location.
Absurd.
That's a good one.
With the question mark.
That's a good one. Art, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much. It's surreal being an alumni and being in Columbus and being in this space. Cheers. Really appreciate you coming on. Best of luck with everything. We will be here. Oh, actually, we have to end with, is there an official open date or a general time?
That's hilarious. No, I want to say March 17th,
yes,
St. Patty's Day. Let's fucking go.
Please be open.
I'm
then.
hoping for that, but I don't.
For March Madness too, it's going to
be
the whole
here. Thing. It'd be incredible.
That'd be fantastic.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
I in March is the idea. There's a lot of stuff that needs to shake out and happen before then, but we're getting closer every day. I mean, this floor will be finished tomorrow.
Nice.
The millwork's coming at the end of January. Bill told me that today. Bill,
figure it out.
Here we go.
Yep,
it's getting closer.
I love it. Not that everyone already doesn't know, but where can everybody find you, like social, or if they're trying to figure out where to come in Columbus or Athens, where can everybody find you?
Like the product or me?
Social media, website.
Jackie O's all over, like either Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. We haven't gotten into TikTok yet, but something tells me things are coming.
Yep.
And we're actually going to launch 1 or 2 new Instagrams and try to separate some stuff.
Columbus like an Athens and
might
Columbus.
Be its own. Athens is its own thing, and then the bigger brand that's like more regional has its own sort of thing. So focused on the beer and the sustainability efforts in one, and then on 4th, we're calling this Jackie O's on 4th because we're on 4th Street, and then Athens, where you can get all your specials and all those things that may or may not be pertinent to those other 2 groups.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you again, man. Good luck.
We
will be here in March, April, May, June, the rest of the year as soon as you open. Appreciate it again.
Beer's on me.
It's done deal. It's on camera.
Right.
He said it. It's on camera. He said it. Thank you again, man.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Rust Belt Rundown. Make sure you check us out at rustbeltrecruiting.com.